Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to Skill Tree, where we learn how to do just about everything. Now, we make a lot of stuff on the show, and every once in a while we get the request of like, hey, does any of that crap, does that stuff work? Like, obviously, it looks good on camera and stuff, but like, when used out in the field, does it hold up? So that's what today's episode is. Today, we're just gonna kind of sit, we're gonna have a drink, and we're just gonna chat about the stuff that we made and how well it lasted. I want to start with an oldie but a goodie, which is our Ranger Quiver here. This is the first one we ever put together. You can check it out in this episode right here. And it is totally held up. I actually didn't end up using this. We had Graham, who's the mod on our Discord server. He came with us this time and we let him use it, and it seemed to work really well. And why I'm bringing it back up, even though I didn't use it, but we had somebody else use it, is one, it still does its job really well. But two, it holds up. Like, look at it still. It's covered in mud, and honestly, it was caught in the rain, so it deformed a little bit. But I can just re-wet that and put it back. But otherwise, like, color looks good. All the straps hold up really well. For just like a really basic project, this one just worked out great. I have a template for this one, by the way, in our website. Link in the description below if you want to go check that out and make it yourself. I just really like when fun little projects kind of withstand the test of time. So yeah, I'm gonna give that one a 5 star still. I love this one. Next is actually just these really simple leather notebooks here. Our little notebooks here, the ones that Maddie had put together, are absolutely fantastic. These were lifesavers while we were out there. The reason I'm especially bringing it up right now is because this whole design was actually done in our scrap leather project. It's a super easy way to put together a pretty nice little journal, and she did the extra of like actually putting together the journal. She folded all the paper and she sewed them together. But the design is just so like you could actually put any little notebook that'll fit whatever shape you make, and this ended up being a lifesaver. Again, we were running just a whole bunch of little quests, and I had a whole bunch of stuff I had to keep track of, and my brain does not do that. It does not keep track of crap like that. So having such a cool little in-time looking notebook on me is just, it was perfect and super needed. Honestly, I can't tell if my lack of memory is an ADHD thing or more just like, I'm always tired. I'm perpetually tired. That's where today's sponsor, Magic Mind, can help out. Magic Mind is a mental performance shot that says it can get you like sharper, more mentally clear, better energy, all that kind of stuff. And I'll be honest, I wasn't sure at first, but honestly, I do feel an effect from it. Now, full disclosure, I'm really like sensitive to things like caffeine. I need them to live, but like they make me shake, and after a little bit, I crash super hard. So as much as possible, I try to back away from them, and having something like this actually really makes that a lot easier. It helps with that balance of me like backing away from coffee a little bit and having what would normally be a terrible time doing so, and it has really kind of smoothed that out for me. What I like about the brand is they're not a caffeine replacement. They know they're not a caffeine replacement. They're exactly for that. They're like an additional thing you take, almost like how you take vitamins or whatever. And it's got a lot of cool other herbs and supplements in there that not only help you maintain your energy, but also help dial back the stress, which God knows I need. Just like a shaking little ball of stress over here. But I've been drinking for the past week now, and honestly, I do notice a difference. I do feel like I'm more awake and kind of aware of things and a little bit less stressed out. I've seen a lot of different reviews of people where they'll serve it like over ice or inside an oat milk or something. I actually kind of like the flavor of it, so I just drink it right out of this little bottle here. And the brand seems pretty comfortable in what they produce because they offer 100% money back guarantee, no questions asked, up to 100 days after you've ordered it, which, I mean, that's pretty cool. If you're interested, make sure you check out our link in the description below and use our code SKILLTREE20 to get up to 48% off of your first time subscription for the next 10 days, or 20% off if it's a one-time purchase. All right, next we're getting into the chunky stuff, the stuff that we specifically built just for going to Reckoning. And we'll start with our actual like torso armor. This bad boy right here. Now, if you watched the review episode of how Reckoning was, you'll know that we vacillated between it being like stupid hot and just downpouring rain and tornadoes. It was a time. But the cool thing is, even though I was wearing this on honestly the hottest day, I felt great. I don't know if it's just because of how I lined it or some of the other articles of clothing I was wearing, but like I wanted to on day one set the tone. Like I am the roguish character. If you want to do roguish things, you come to me. So I was wearing my full black kit, my black armor, and again, it was really hot. So everybody kept coming up to me being like, "Are you okay? You're wearing a lot of black there." But honestly, I felt great. This was super comfortable. And I will say at the beginning, I was a bit worried because of how wide this section is right here. Now in this piece of armor that I made for Tandy Leather, which you can see in this episode right here, you'll notice that this is a lot more thin. And honestly, like from the get-go, this is a better design because if you take your hands and you put them together like this, that's about how much space is left between your biceps there. Any wider than that, then if you're like swinging a sword or whatever, or doing anything really, you end up like hitting here a lot and you end up being really, really bruised. And I was worried because when I first put this on, it felt like when I started to do things, it felt tight right there. But two things I think really saved me. One was actually wrapping the edge of the leather. When I made it, I took another piece of like more supple leather and I wrapped it around those edges and sewed it into place. That actually ended up giving me like a little bit of a cushion right there that really helped kind of like cushion that area for lack of a better word. But also I think because I used a really kind of light leather, it ended up getting really supple very quickly. I think because I was so hot and like sweaty. But yeah, that actually added some extra flexibility to the leather and made it so that like after wearing it for maybe like 2 hours or so, that whole problem of that tightness there completely went away. After that, I wore this almost the entire time and was totally comfortable. The part that did wear on me a little bit, which I was surprised about, and honestly, it weared on the armor itself. You can see some of the shininess right here on the chest is gone, is the shoulder straps. So these shoulder straps and then attached to my belt, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. These are great to take the weight off of your waist, which can sometimes be a real pain because that's where you keep all your like pouches and your swords and all that jazz. So they were great for that, but I think that added pressure here on my shoulders, after a while, that's where I started to feel kind of like wear and it was starting to hurt a little. And at first I thought it was tightness to do with this, but once I took these off, it went away completely. I was like, oh no, it was just rubbing. In hindsight, makes perfect sense. So I like these and I like that whole setup of how it like supports the belt, but I think I wouldn't wear them for like super prolonged, like all day in the baking sun type of thing. You know, it wasn't even so much that it was like more heavy here, it was just the friction right here started to actually literally wear at me. Like I started to feel like I was getting a sunburn there. But the thing they held up, my little kidney belt here, was just money. This thing was great all around. There were no problems from the get-go. I loved this thing. It was easy to put on, it was easy to take off. All of my stuff, I still have like my pouches and my swords connected to it. It had plenty of attachment points to put extra stuff. It had pockets built into it, so I never really had to like go get another pouch if I didn't want to. I just stick it in my pocket. Yeah, I really liked this whole design. In fact, the entire like armor design, if I had to run into the tent real quick or I just wanted to take it off, it took me just a few seconds. I unbuckled a couple things and the entire thing just kind of fell off. Like the NBA sweatpants of armor. You're just like, wham, you rip them right off. But then when I wanted to put it all back on, it literally went on the same exact way. I just kind of put it on. I buckled like 3 buckles here and the 2 buckles for my belt, and I'm done. But I will give this one, I'll give it a strong 4 out of 5 stars. I was very happy with the whole overall design. This right here, depending on the leather you use, I might make it just a little bit smaller to begin with. If you're using a thicker leather and it won't get supple on you fast, that could have been a little tight for me. But otherwise, it was fantastic. And again, I honestly think lining it went a long way for helping me not feel so like oppressively hot inside of it. So yeah, 4 for this. I'm gonna give these guys, man, I wanna give them like a 4. I'll probably go towards a 3 just because of how much they were kind of a little uncomfortable here and how much they wore against my armor. I may have to add some sort of like a padding or something to the back so they don't wear away the finish of my armor. That was a little bit upsetting. Though they did do their job. They took all that weight off of my waist, so I didn't feel uncomfortable like in my waist and my legs at all, just a little bit on my shoulders. And the belt is a 5 all day long. That thing is fantastic. I love that belt. It's so good. Another part of the armor I made were these little gauntlets right here. And again, for like ease of use, like to put these things on is probably the fastest I've ever had something I could just kind of put on and take off if I wanted to. They're real secure, they look really cool. But again, this one ends up being a bit of a spacing issue, kind of the same with the other one, where I thought I was low enough on this one, but it's just enough that when I come into here, it rubs right here just into my elbow. I didn't think it did as much before, but like I might cut these down and then kind of re-sew them there a little bit. When you wear them for just a few minutes or whatever, or you have them like turned in the right position, you don't notice it at all, but eventually it works its way back to kind of its natural position, and it's just enough to be bothersome. But that right there is the only thing that would bring this from like that 5 to a 4, because otherwise they look really cool. They're super easy to put on, and again, to like take off, you just kind of pull it and it's off. Again, it has a pocket inside, which I did make good use of. Somebody passed me a missive and I immediately was just like, shoop, and it was gone. I love pockets, man. I like how much I haven't had the time too. These things are still covered in mud from Muddagedding. I think all of the armor I have here, or the muckening, I think all of the armor I have here still has a whole bunch of mud on it. The only bit of the stuff that I made that actually didn't really make the cut for me is on that full armor assembly, I made the thigh armor here. There we go, I have one right here. I actually didn't even end up bringing it because the problem was, and I didn't even think of this when I was putting it together, the way these work is the straps go around your thighs, and then you've got these smaller straps here that hook onto the belt that help hold up their weight so they don't slide down. The problem with these though, especially in conjunction with those shoulder straps that I got going on, is it forms like a solid band that goes all the way down to your thighs. And if they're not set just right, it makes it so you can't fully extend your body, right? You can't stand up straight because then it's bottomed out how far up it can come up onto you. And all the leather is so hard pulling against each other that it's actually kind of uncomfortable to wear all together. With just the belt, it's not bad at all. It's just kind of hanging on the belt. But in conjunction with those shoulder straps, man, when I was trying them out, it didn't feel right as I'm like walking around in them for a while. So I ended up just kind of taking them off altogether. Again, the way around that is either to not wear those shoulder straps in conjunction with this, or to maybe make this almost like a little bit of a bungee, or a way to kind of like stretch a little bit so as I walk, it doesn't pull so much. Honestly, just giving it a little extra tension. I tend to make things so like form fit and perfect that I don't leave a lot of room for extra. So yeah, these are getting a 2 for now. They need some adjusting. I was missing having the pocket, but I mean, I had so many pockets. I just like having extras. But yeah, this one needs adjusting. Also, when I strap these in, because they're strapped in with this button here, this little flap is hanging. You see how it just kind of rolls up on itself? I don't like how that looks. I need to put a keeper on there to keep that thing flat. The rest of it is good, just the little strappies. These straps need a keeper, and these straps need either some give or need to be a little bit longer. So hopefully after those adjustments, I am going to be bringing all this stuff to Conquest with me, and we'll try them again. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so that was the armor bits. The other piece that I had made for my character though, and I don't have it with me, we actually packed up a bunch of stuff, but it's actually this little coat robe thing that I made. And that thing was money. Again, I was walking around at some points when it was super hot, and I felt fine. Like, if anything, the way it kind of caught the breeze and the way it wicked sweat away from me was just like, it was great. Because of it and my armor and stuff, I had pockets just everywhere. So like, I had notebooks and pencils and quest items and silver and stuff. The whole kit was super, super useful. And then on the occasion when it started to like rain or whatever, like that's made almost like a giant Rowana cloak, so I can just kind of drape it over my head and run to get out of the rain if I needed to. So yeah, that one I'm gonna give straight up 5 stars. I'm very, very happy with how that whole thing came out, how it wore, how it matched with everything else I was going for. In general, super, super happy with it. Okay, for the MVP of this whole trip, I'm gonna call out my little sewing kit that I made here. This has both like regular like fabric sewing stuff and has leather like tools inside of this little pouch here. This thing was so money on this trip. First of all, bringing back out these right here. So we had promised like within the new player experience bags that we were putting together, everybody got one of these little journals, which means we had to put together like 40 of these. Which isn't crazy, but we're like super low on time. So most of the actual construction of this stuff was done on the road while we were heading to the event. So the leather tools in here came in mint. Aside from being able to do like small repairs on like people's armor and stuff, like for actually crafting things in the field, everything I needed was in this little pouch. So that was fantastic. But then also, no less than 3 people came up to me like asking if they had anything that they could use to like sew with or whatever, because they had costume malfunctions, like somebody's pants ripped and somebody's shirt ripped or whatever. And the answer was always like, yes, I have a whole ass kit you can use. Here you go. So this was not only like wildly useful for me and my purposes, but it actually like helped a lot of other people out there in the field. Which, you know, I always love that. I like being useful. As far as changes, this one, man, I have no notes. No notes on this. I was very pleased with the way everything works inside of there. Everything's easily replaceable in case I need different parts. Again, a bunch of different people were able to use it and find it useful. Yeah, hard 5 out of 5 stars on this one. The episode in which I made it here, if YouTube lets me, I think we're getting a little heavy on the cards they allow. If not, definitely down in the description below. Get yourself one of these, though. This one is cool. And for a quick honorable mention, it's not something I made, but something I treated, and that is these here boots. These are just like some Amazon special, like I think they're motorcycle boots, to be honest with you. But then I just went back in and I really waterproof these. I used some good like products to make sure they're nice and waterproofed. And so far, these have gotten me through both the Conquest like crazy mud event we were in last year and this crazy mud event we were in with Reckoning. They just straight up withstood it. I'd be like in this deep of mud and water and nothing. No water seeped through. I was dry and comfortable the entire time. So yeah, I can't recommend enough. If you go out on adventures or whatever, like you can skimp on a lot of things. You can like sew up clothing or whatever if they break. If you don't have a good pair of boots, you're gonna be suffering a little bit. It is for sure what's worth investing in. Get yourself a good pair of boots and make sure you waterproof them. These have been just incredible. Oh, and also, it was an extra bonus to make sure that they're just kind of slide-ons, like I don't have to tie them at all. Because as I'm going in and out of my tent, and again, it was all muck and nasty, it was so mint to be able to just kind of slide them off, go into my tent, slide them back on, go back about my business. Poor Maddie, every time she had to go in, she's untying her shoes and she's got mud all over the laces and she's trying to do that and then she's got to slide back in. A tornado was coming. I'm like, put on your shoes, hurry up. And she's like, hold on, I gotta tie them. Yeah. Great boots. I highly recommend these ones. These are Durangos. I've had a lot of luck with these ones. I'll leave the link to where I got it down in the description below. But yeah, any boots, just make sure you actually invest in quality ones. I had a lot of people asking if we used the tent that we made this time around. We actually didn't. We rent out tents to other people when we go to Reckoning. Mostly just to like lower the bar for entry so people can kind of go into it without having to buy their own like in-time tent or whatever. But as such, we end up setting up like a whole bunch of tents during the beginning. And that green tent, it takes a while to set up. If it's the only tent you're setting up, it's mint. The thing still works. We have it. We use it for other stuff. But when we have a lot to do, it's just way easier to set up like the white duck ones that we have. It's just like stakes around the perimeter and one pole in the middle and you're done. Also, I really want them to sponsor me. Those white duck tents, those things are incredible. Those survive like crazy storms. They're comfortable and fast to put up. I will say those things are great all day long. Now, aside from some of the stuff I've made, I also wanted to cover at least 2 projects that I saw well out there that we've done on this channel that people decided to do themselves. The first is the Staff of the Wanderer project that I made. This is a staff that can kind of break down, become a bunch of different things, have useful tools kind of built into it. It's a really cool project. And it was neat to see what other people did with it. Like there was this one I saw that had these big feathers that they put on the top of it that looked really like right with their character, but it also formed a bit of an umbrella to protect them from the sun. It's such a useful little addition, especially with how hot it was. They were just chilling. They're hanging out with their pole there. They have shade everywhere they go. And again, it has all the other tools that they found useful on it. It's easy to break apart and bring with you. Now that was a fun project to make, but it's so much fun to see how you all take it and make it your own. Another one, and honestly one that makes me super proud, is the fact that, again, in the Wanderer series that I had done, is the backpack of the Wanderer, which is a backpack that you can then like break apart and it turns into a whole tent that you can stay in. Well, somebody had like giant balls and decided to use that as their tent. That's where they would be living during the event. The event in question, again, was crazy hot into downpouring mud everywhere to tornadoes. And the person who did that came up to me after like the big storm that went through and like ripped a bunch of tents apart. He was like, hey, just so you know, I used the Wanderer's backpack tent and it was still standing after that storm. Everything in it was fine. Which to me is just like, wow. It is so cool to have like the stuff you've designed kind of field tested out there, and it turns out it works out really well. I love that. I love it. It's obviously a really great testament to your craftsmanship person who made that, because like, yeah, there's significant putting stuff together, and it withstood the test because you made it really well. So congratulations, great job. Yeah, I always love to see how you guys take the projects that we make here on the show and you make them your own, and it's just the coolest thing to me to see out in the world. I love that. Okay, as I mentioned, we are going to Conquest this year, and we are bringing a bunch of you with us. I think at this point we have like 40 people hanging out in the camp with us, which is phenomenal. And we're hell-bent on making sure that the camp itself is going to be like a fun place for people to hang out and just like sets the good vibe. As such, we've started a GoFundMe to go towards only that camp. Basically, any of the money in there is going towards making that camp fun, making sure we have like a lot of cool cookware, neat lighting, a nice vibe in general. Not only for the people going this year, but for any of you who want to go next year or any of the years to follow, all that stuff will stay. 100% of the stuff in the GoFundMe is only going to fund the camp. It isn't going to us. So if you're into it and it's something you'd like to support, definitely consider doing that. As an extra bonus to that though, if you do give starting at $10 to the GoFundMe, your name is actually going to be put on plaques that we're going to put around our camp. We're calling the camp the Grove, and you will be like the roots of the Grove, the ones who help us grow. So if you're interested at all, again, check out this QR code or check out the link in the description below to learn more. And aside from supporting the community, have you joined the community yet? It is a group of amazing people and crafters who are always putting together fantastic projects and just kind of helping each other out with whatever. Like, check out these projects that they've posted recently. I always find it amazing what incredible projects these people put together. Honestly, most of the time, it's like way better than I can do. They're fantastic over there. So if you want to meet like-minded crafters or just need somewhere to kind of hang out and be a nerd, definitely check that out. Link in the description below. All right, well, thank you for just hanging out and chattering with me for this. It's really cool to go over the stuff that we've made in the past and just kind of assess to see if we're doing a good job or we need to change some things. If you liked what you saw here today, why don't you leave some of the comments down to let us know and give us some of that like it love. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you know when I release new content. And a special thank you again to Magic Mind for sponsoring this video. In the meantime, though, keep leveling up, you. You've made it to the end screen. YouTube loves it when you do that. It's a fantastic way to support this channel. Another fantastic way to support this channel is by joining these people's noble ranks. These are our Patreon members, and we cannot do this without them. Extra special shout out to our newest high tier level Patreon member, Bill DeVoe. And as always, a huge thank you to our Grandmaster tier members, Yuri Jantro, Dragon Designs, Froggy, and Andrew Smith. Again, I can't overestimate the effect y'all have when you actually give to our Patreon. It's amazing. Like, it helps us get all the things that we need, helps us grow as a channel, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you like what we do here and want to help support us, consider joining our Patreon, link in the description below. Otherwise, you can click on one of these videos that YouTube thinks you'd like, and that helps out a lot too. I must go clean the mud off of all of my armors. It's been 2 weeks, it's probably due.